Welcome back to the Mail Right Show, ladies and gentlemen. It's episode 392. John was accusing himself of being fake, and then I realized I'd misheard him and that he had a toothache. So it is now John's turn to be sassy on the show. I usually take that mantle, but he's going to take it today. So without any further ado, for those people who are new to the show, and there should be a few because I figured out how to share this show directly to my private Facebook group. John, why don't you go ahead and introduce yourself?
Thanks, Rob. I'm the joint founder of mail-right.com, MailRight. We build beautiful websites on WordPress, plus we provide a CRM, a social media calendar, and a lot more. We compete with Real Geeks and Sarah Interactive. Back over to you, Rob.
Okay, since the only live audience that I know about is my own Facebook group, and they all absolutely know who I am, I'm just going to stick with this. I'm a tech founder, just like John. I focus on search engine optimization and putting realtors back in control of their own marketing destiny. So without any further ado, we're going to dive into one of John and I's favorite subjects, certainly one of my favorite subjects, which is video lead generation advice, which is probably at this point, over the last 3 years, I have to say it's the most popular category of advice that I get asked about. I get asked everything from treatments for videos, that scripts to write out, to what videos generate the most leads, to what videos generate the most traffic, and what is the difference between the two. So I'm looking forward to diving into all those subjects. But as per his usual, John was the one who decided on the subject. And so, John, before I just dive right in, as you know I will, I want to ask you, was there something specific? Like, did you have a specific idea about how you wanted to advise agents on lead generation for this particular video?
Yeah, I've kind of put down about 6 types of videos that I think might get you some leads. And I'll just quickly run through them and get your response. And if you think it's a good way to progress, maybe we talk about as many as possible. So number 1, just listed videos, properties that are just listed, home variation videos, what the local what kind of value you get for a certain property, local market update videos, community-based interview videos. Number 5, what I call road warrior videos. What I mean by that is that people like actually to see what you're doing, a small insight about the day-to-day working of as a real estate agent. I think people quite like those if you're up to it. And aspirational videos, properties that may be outside the budget of your normal target audience, but people like to see them and showing people about them. So they're the kind of 6 type of videos, ideas that I think you could utilize to generate leads.
Copy you. So amongst those ideas, I've collaborated with and consulted with a lot of the top video producers that are out there. There's many names, but probably if I tried to put a number on it, I've talked to people that have collectively probably generated about 100 million views. And here's what those people have said in relationship to videos that create leads. And there's also my own client base has probably generated a much smaller number of views, which maybe under 1 million. Then I've talked to them, and I know what generates my clients' leads 100% for sure, no doubt about it. So just listed videos and road warrior videos, as you described them, tend to be they gather audience. I don't know that I would say that I haven't gotten input that says that they really truly gather leads. Maybe just listed occasionally would gather some leads from an existing audience on an existing YouTube channel with somebody that you had created a hell of a relationship with, in which case I think just listed videos would probably do much better in that circumstance. In terms of what works for our audience, so I'm going to go through these, but we should dive into them a little bit more. So Road Warrior, I would have said if it was neighborhood tours actually generates my clients a surprisingly large number of leads. A mystery that I don't know. Christoph Chu, to my recollection, was the first client of mine, or not client, but consultative partner maybe, or person that I spoke to, or business associate. He was the first person that I recollect telling me in a kind of surprised tone that actually some of the videos that get calls are when he's just driving around talking about a specific area, and that was many years ago. That we may have had that conversation, if my recollection is correct. But in addition to that, I've had many clients since then say the same thing. So whether or not my memory is correct about Christoph, what is absolutely 100% correct is guys like Brett and other people that are my clients. These neighborhood tours just, they generate a lot of calls, a lot of comments on channels, a lot of, oh, look, there's my old house, this, that, the other thing about the neighborhood, then a lot of communication, which nobody is more surprised by that than me, but it's been consistent and it's been over many years and it's never stopped. So neighborhood tours, getting in your car, driving around. Now, to go along with the neighborhood tour, in the bonus section of this video, assuming that John doesn't decide he wants to do something different, I'm going to say there's a science to neighborhood tours. Like, what do you say on the tour while you're driving the car? I'll share that after the break. There is also relocation videos, which, John, I don't know if you're a part of this group. If you're not, you should, because we've had both the founder and co-founder of this group on the show in the past. That is, I forget her first name, but Smallhorn and then Matthew Lawson. They founded a group called the Real Estate YouTube Mastermind on Facebook. If everybody's listening to the show, seeing this show, I can't recommend enough that you request access. It's Christina Smallhorn. And see if they're still accepting new members. They're up to many millions of members at this point, or is it millions? I'll have to check, but they're maybe 11,000 people, not millions. Might be 11,000. And they talk a lot about what videos are producing leads for them. And here's what I've noticed is a consistent thread throughout the 11,000 people producing videos in all corners of the United States. Relocation videos are one of the top lead generators that I've seen or heard of inside the real estate space. What is a relocation video? Relocation video is where you talk about top 10 reasons people move to city name. All right. Top 10 things you need to know before you move to city name. So these videos are generating a lot of leads. Now I have one that consistently surprises me, another one, and it consistently, I feel like I've never been able to confirm one way or the other with Christoph how well these perform for him, but I know how well they perform for me and my audience. That is market reports. I did not understand how valuable that would be to an insular audience. In other words, if you live in, let's say, John, you live in Reno, right? And let's just pretend that you have a Reno real estate license. And of course, you and I and everybody else in the brother can get a global real estate report. We can go to Inman, we can go to Los Angeles Times, we can go to New York Times. We can get so many people have broad articles as it relates to the market. Apparently, that doesn't carry as much relevance for people that would live in Reno as hearing from an actual Reno real estate agent talking about Reno specifically, what they're seeing, how many homes over a certain price they've sold, which is a tip that I'm taking from Christoph's channel. How many transactions were happening at the same time last year? Like somebody with boots on the ground inside the Reno market, those kinds of marketing reports get a tremendous amount of response when sent to people via an email list. People tune into them. It works very well for Brett. It works very well for other clients that I've got. It's a tremendously powerful video that you can do where hopefully if you're in tune with what your local market is and you have a defined geographic audience, in other words, I wouldn't do all of Los Angeles County. I might do a triangle inside the valley where I live, like Encino, Reseda, and Van Nuys, which is basically neighboring cities all tied together. That is when you start, and as far as I know, Christoph strictly does Beverly Hills. So that really is a compelling piece of content for lead generation. I have a lot more I could say on the subject because this is probably the number one subject that we focus most of our research time at Inbound REM. It's the number one thing I talk to clients about. Video is the linchpin to our lead generation strategies. Our clients that do video make a tremendous amount more money than the clients that don't, and we've case studied that like ad nauseum. So I'm curious to know, John, do you have any questions or comments about what I've said so far?
No, I think it's all good stuff. I think the reason why I didn't put the relocation, because so many people are doing it, and we have had a couple of experts on talking about it. So I think the other factor before we go for a break is I think there's also a place of when you get into the groove that you shouldn't forget about paid video campaigns for YouTube, because it's a lot cheaper than normal Google advertising at the present moment. There's still a difference in price. And I think I certainly wouldn't go down that route until you're happy with the type of video you're doing. And like I say, you get into a groove. But then I wouldn't, if you got a little bit of money to spend, I think it will help with your message getting further faster.
I agree with you. And in particular, I'm going to surprise everybody, including myself, and say, you know what, one of the things I agree with a lot is doing just listed videos and then putting maybe $10 or $20 into advertising that video on YouTube. And yes, ladies and gentlemen, you can do an extremely micro-sized budget and get an extremely walloped size impact on video. So because if you're advertising to a very specific market, like let's call it a neighborhood, as opposed to a city keyword, but a neighborhood keyword, and then you advertise that video, your budget needs to be very small. And every view that you get is probably going to be very relevant, because if somebody's looking on YouTube for a specific area, like a neighborhood, then there's probably not that many of those searches, but they're very focused on trying to find something in that neighborhood, which means that perhaps your video will be exactly what they want. So like most of my strategies are extremely micro specific, and I like clients like Brett who tell me that they're getting a 50% close ratio. That's my objective with leads, is to do really, 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 really high conversion on, so that the conversation as it relates to follow-up and pipelines and things like that, it's diminished. Obviously it's still there, but all the importance for these mass lead generation things is to filter out the very, very large amount of low quality leads that John and I have talked about ad nauseum, and basically throw 95% of what you're calling as a lead into a follow-up process, and then follow up with them ad nauseum. And it's a great way to generate a relationship with somebody. But I like the idea of, I take a call and there's a relatively high percent chance that it's going to be a deal, because we all get excited about that. The mental discipline is lower, because you're just like, every call is going to be potentially a sale. It's really easy to pick up the phone. It's really easy to get excited about leads. It's really easy to not get exhausted in the follow-up process, which I have done many times as a professional salesperson. So anyway, we're going to take an early break. It's 4 minutes and 50 seconds into the show, which means we are about 10 seconds away from the midway mark. And then when we come back, assuming John doesn't mind, we're going to talk about the specifics of what you should say inside these lead generation video types. because I do want to let all the people that are watching out of my Facebook group get some actionable advice from us and make sure that you walk away with a reminder of what specifically you should be saying and doing inside video if you'd like to produce some leads. Stay tuned. We'll be right back. Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to episode number 392. This is the Mail Right Show, and we're talking about video lead generation. We're giving you some advice about, first of all, what types of videos produce leads. And now we're going to talk to you specifically about what you should say in those video types. So, market reports. I covered this a little bit. I want to cover it a lot more. Year-to-year comparisons are incredibly popular. They're attention grabbing. They make it feel as if you have a deep amount of insight into your own marketplace. I suggest that you go back anywhere from 1 to 3 years. Since we just are coming out of a pandemic, I think it's of particular interest to people, pandemic production versus non-pandemic production. If I was an agent doing a market report, I would focus on how many homes are selling now, how many homes have sold over the last couple of years, what the progression is. And then once I'd given that progression, I would say, these are my thoughts and feelings about the way the marketplace is going, considering things like mortgage rates, what you're hearing from the people that you're talking to. Like, is anybody listing a home for you? Are they listing concerns about selling that home and getting into another one, or is their plan to buy that new home all in cash so they don't have to worry about the higher interest rate? If anybody is talking to you about higher interest rates, what is their game plan surrounding those interest rates? I think all of those things are going to be highly relevant, and hear me on this, really, really good information to potentially generate leads. A guy that might very well be watching the show right now, Bryant McKellar, is brilliant at selling against every resistance. He's a mortgage broker who also owns a real estate company with his wife, and we do the SEO on his real estate website. And what I've noticed is that he is doing an amazing job of coming up with reasons why people should buy mortgages right now, today. He's just selling against every resistance, and it's brilliant to watch him do it. I'm sure his lead count is down. I'm sure things are tougher than in hot markets, but at the same time, I'm also sure he's generating results because he's been at it for a really long time and he doesn't stop. That suggests to me that his methods are successful. I suggest that you use them as a real estate agent. Sell against every resistance. Deal with the fact that the interest rates are high. Talk about it inside your market report, which leads us to video type number 2. Video neighborhood tours. All right. Listen, when you're talking about neighborhood tours, the things that I've noticed seem to generate response is, number one, depends on what your neighborhoods are. But if there's big amenities, like in Van Nuys, we have a microbrewery that's right down the street that took over a mechanic shop. It's really well known in the area. It's a very unusual store, restaurant. People go there all the time. All the mechanics in Van Nuys take off and they come to this place and shoot darts and drink beer, which is made on premises. It's a really unusual spot, especially since Van Nuys is all blue collar, all. So when you're talking about, you've got the Van Nuys Airport, you've got a few notable things. You've got the Van Nuys Courthouse. These are all things that make Van Nuys notable. So when you're doing a drive around, you obviously talk about property prices, how much the average home goes for, how many of the homes have sold in the neighborhood. These are all things that you also talk about when you're driving around. Changes that you've seen in the neighborhood if you yourself either live there or sold in the neighborhood over 5 to 10 years. Like, are families living there? Are they moving in and out? Is the general demographic of people getting older? Is it getting younger? Has it stayed exactly the same since you started marketing to the area? Do people send their kids to the schools in the area? Is it single family residences? All the details of an area, I would really love it, John, if people would not take them for granted. Like, who lives in your area? Like, who's in Reno? Who's in your neighborhood? Are they older white professionals like you? Are they not? Are they blue collar? Are they entrepreneurial? Are they families with kids? Do they send those kids to schools as far as you know? Have you ever stopped to talk to any of those people? And if so, what has their report been on the area that you live in? Are they happy there? Do they wish some things would change? These are all things that you would discuss while you're driving around a neighborhood. If anybody's curious to see some of those videos, you can either go to Brett Wallace, Realtor, do that search on YouTube, or Christoph Chu, who doesn't even need the Realtor at the end of his name for his videos to come up. In either one of those cases, you'll see a great storyteller who understands the details of the area that he's servicing. Great details. Christoph has the advantage of being able to drive past a home and say, such and such a movie star lived here back in the 50s, right? That's so cool and a great detail. Brett doesn't have that because he's in a completely middle-class area on the suburbs of Houston. So what Brett would be talking about would be the things that would be interesting to middle-class people, which is, where do their kids go to school? How are the parks in the area, which he does talk about? What are the amenities that he's seeing changed? I've heard him talk a few different times about stores that are breaking ground, being new to the area, things like that. And these are all things that middle Americans would probably appreciate, find interesting. So it makes those neighborhood tours, video tours, very sticky, lets people want to watch other tours that you've done of other similar neighborhoods they might be shopping, and in turn seems to generate calls because, and here's my belief, I don't have the statistical proof beyond a shadow of a doubt, but I'm going to say my belief is that there's no better way to prove to somebody that you know the hyper-specific area that they're looking at than these video tours. Yeah. I think, like, imagine, John, you live in a fourplex, right? Do I remember that right?
Yeah.
Okay. So just pretend, I know this isn't the case, by the way, I remember the details, but just pretend it's like a 12plex, but it has a name, Hamilton 12plex, but you all own your own individual things. So, and there's a barbecue area, right? That all the residents can gather in. So it would make sense then, wouldn't it, for you, if we thought 10 people were searching for Hamilton Place, that you go down, do a little tour, show your barbecue, show the pool, show the whatever, talk about it? Because does it make sense to you? Does it track why, if you did all that and then said, oh, I've lived here for 10 years, why people might decide that you're the resident expert on Hamilton Place?
It would, yes.
Those types of videos really work well. I'm going to give one other case study. I hope they're tuned in through my Facebook group. Tiffany, Justin, I'm calling you out. I don't know what the lead generation has been on this video, but they happen to live in Daytona Beach. And for those of you who don't know, Daytona Beach homes one of the bigger master plan communities in the Florida condominium world called Margaritaville. I'm sure most of you understand that this is a Jimmy Buffett song, that he's branded the whole like margarita thing, and that this community is incredibly popular. As a matter of fact, when I look it up on YouTube, there are 10, 12, 13, 14 videos. Yet Justin and Tiffany have 8 to 10,000 views on their video. Now, why? Because everybody was doing videos on Margaritaville. And the answer is pretty simple. They decided to shoot the amenities and not the units, because Margaritaville is huge. It's like a small city, John. If you don't know, it's massive. Like pretend that it's just basically a whole entire entertainment complex. It's got bars and stores and pro shops and swim shops. And how do I know all that? Because I watched Justin walk around and show them to me on the video that he did. And nobody else had done an amenities video. Justin was the first. Everybody else was shooting the units, but not him. Shot the amenities. And now they've got tons and tons and tons of views on that video. Now, if they didn't get any leads, it bumped up the traffic and the authority of their YouTube channel by creating a popular video. If they did get leads because they were the local resident Margaritaville expert, then they produced a video shot on a cell phone, walking around on their own 2 legs with no editing, and did it in about 30 minutes. That outranked many, many, many of the videos that are already on YouTube, just because they decided to shoot something that was actually relevant to their audience and not themselves, which was the amenities. So for those of you listening, that's another very specific thing. If you're doing buildings, if you're doing communities, make sure that you're shooting the questions that people have. That's the HOA meetings, the amenities of the building. These are things that I don't know why, but people don't focus on them. But John, I'm going to just ask you another test marketing question. So let's just say you're thinking about retiring.
I do hope you're going to pass me on this weekly exam that you give me.
So you go to Florida, you're going to live there, and somebody like, that all these YouTube videos exist. Would it be interesting to you before flying out to Florida to see a complete total tour? And I'm talking about everything, the grounds and the units. Would that be interesting to you to watch before you flew to see a specific area?
Oh yeah. No, I would be doing my research. I'll be looking around. I think it would be Google and especially YouTube where I would be doing the bulk of that research.
And I think that's where the trend is. And then if you tell a compelling enough story, if you're useful enough, what I've observed, what my clients have observed is that people will call you, usually out of the telephone number put into the description of the video. So that's usually where they call you. So we as an SEO company link back to websites to make sure that we're getting some SEO juice. But when it comes to a good amenities video or a good lead generating video, oftentimes you don't even need the number on your website. You just need the number in the description of the video itself, and then somebody calls you directly from there. But if you have the video on your website, just for those, and I think John already knows this, but you get double credit. A really successful video oftentimes propels the page that you put the video on to the tops of the search engines. So you get twice the value out of the same video. I could go on and on and on and on, but John, I want to hand it back over to you and give you an opportunity to close the show out with any additional thoughts that you have about video, any additional thoughts about how MailRight leverages video, whatever you want to talk about.
Well, we've been building out our own videos and we're getting more and more traffic. We put more, for the past 8-9 months, we've been putting a lot more effort in the MailRight channel, and it's starting to pay some dividends. I think the main thing, and it's the main thing why you should really look at doing this, is that so many agents will say, I just can't be bothered with this. I just don't have the time. I just don't understand how to do it, and I don't want to do it. And if you keep telling you these things, you're not going to do it. But, for the first 2 to 3 videos, they are going to be a bit rough, unless you've got some acting or you've got some public speaking, or you're the type of personality that just gels with video. It is going to be uncomfortable. But, just get over it, because I know no thing that you can utilize on multiple platforms that will influence people as much as video. There just isn't in 2023. I think you totally agree with that, don't you, Robert?
I do. There's very little that's as influential as I've oftentimes said it, but learning by doing or learning by watching, hearing, and seeing, which is kinesthetic, it's like there is nothing more powerful in the process of how people make decisions right now in the generation that we're in. And that's bled into every single marketing demographic that there is. Even the silver generation is starting to be impacted by video, because we are all conditioned to TV. What was different was how you consume the media, find the media. But now those numbers have shifted to the point that there's almost complete penetration for how people find like these videos like this, like the search volumes going up. And the pandemic is partially responsible for that. That is really where the tsunami of interest has come from in terms of realtors. Because I've been talking about video, YouTube, until we're blue in the face. And there was a lot of interest, but I would say that it's changed from interest to total adoption. Like, I'm watching people adopt video across every market. Realtors are finally realizing it doesn't really matter how reluctant they are. They have to do it.
Yeah.
And I agree with that. Like if you're not on this wave, you are missing out on the most relevant shift inside the real estate lead generation market for probably
Well,
ever.
I'll probably go even a step further. I think if you want to be relevant in as a real estate agent professional in the next few years, if you don't get into video pretty quick, you're going to become rapidly irrelevant. That's my feeling.
Yeah, mine too. All right, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to wrap it up. We really appreciate you attending the show today. I hope that you got something from it. I hope that we either reminded you of something that you should do or we taught you something that you need to do. As usual, my fearless co-host, John, the founder of WP Tonic, the founder of MailRight, the founder of a third show, which I don't remember the name of.
The Membership Machine Show.
The Membership Machine Show, a multi-entrepreneurial driven English bloke. How would if somebody wanted to reach out to you and let's say learn something about WordPress websites, how would they do that?
Well, go to the mail-right.com, have a look at the great plans we got to offer, book a call with me and book a Zoom. I take the majority of the calls. Love to chat, show you what we got to offer. Had a couple of really great chats last week. Always happy to try and help our clients, just like you, Robert. Back over to you, Rob.
So, ladies and gentlemen, if you'd like to reach me, you can go to inboundrem.com. You can go to the About page, the Services page. Either one will drive you to either a calendar form or a contact form. And either me or one of my team members will reach out to you and happily schedule a call. I'm still taking calls myself until the end of the year. And then after that, it's going to be a mix of me and my team. So thank you so much, everybody. John, if you would, sir, sign us off.